Star Trek The Next Generation had had such a massive impact that when it ended in 1994, not only had it reignited interest in television science fiction, but it had also given Paramount the confidence to mount a big screen movie with the same cast and crew. But the studio had a long laundry list of things they wanted from the film, not least of which was the meeting of crews from two different starships called Enterprise. Why did Paramount kill their golden goose? Probably money. The Next Generation cast would have been getting quite expensive for a weekly TV show compared to something like Voyager and Deep Space Nine. That, plus Paramount, who'd already sent the cast of the original series off to a retirement village on SETI Alpha 5, still had a hunger to make more Star Trek films with the Next Generation cast. For a universe about people who don't use money, so many decisions in the Star Trek universe ultimately come down to greed. We don't use money in the 24th century, they say, but they sure as shit did in the 20th. The laundry list mentioned earlier was complicated. Use the Next Generation characters in a way that doesn't feel too cloying for viewers of the series, but at the same time introduce them to people who'd never seen an episode. Give them all something meaningful to do, apart from Dr. Crusher. Also make it exciting and cool. Also find a way to bridge the story to a crew who existed 75 years earlier in universe. And make it so that Captain Kirk can interact with Picard in a satisfying way. And kill off Kirk, preferably satisfying, but just as long as William Shatner stops calling the office. Several writers worked on storylines, but the one that got the nod was from TNG writers Brannon Braga and Ronald D. Moore. They had just written the highly regarded Next Generation finale, as well as many of the show's finest hours, so they were a natural choice. While their script managed to check most things off the list, including the exclusion of Dr. Crusher from as many scenes as possible, getting some of the original series cast members on board was trickier. So in the end, the film would feature William Shatner in a major role, with a brief appearance by Walter Koenig and James Doohan in the film's prologue. Great care had to be taken with the script to ensure that the cameos by Koenig and Doohan each had more lines than Dr. Beverly Crusher, which wasn't a stretch. Regular series director David Carson was tapped to direct in his feature film debut. Just very quickly for people new to Star Trek. In the 23rd century, Captain of the Enterprise was Captain James T. Kirk, while 75 years later, a vessel of the same name, the Starship Enterprise NCC-1701D, was captained by Frenchman Jean-Luc Picard, his first officer Commander William Riker, ship's Dr. Beverly Crusher, second in command Lieutenant Commander Data, an android with no emotions, Lieutenant Worf, a Klingon and ship's tactical officer, ship's counselor Deanna Troi, and Lieutenant Commander Geordie LaForge, the ship's legally blind chief engineer. Okay? And there's also Guinan, who tends bar on board Enterprise, but she's actually a mysterious alien that has apparently been around for a very long time, but doesn't do anything meaningful with her life. Just like our engineer Frank.
What?
Nothing. A new Starship Enterprise is being launched, the Enterprise B, and it's only fitting that some of the original crew are invited to the launch ceremony. Kirk, Scotty, and Chekhov are guests of honor when the ship comes into contact with a mysterious energy field, later identified as the Nexus. Kirk, taking charge of the situation, is feared lost, and future Starfleet historians note that this is the stardate when he died. Apart from the book When He Came Back to Life, as well as my self-published 35-volume fanfiction magnum opus entitled You're Not Dead, Jim. Decades later, the crew of the Enterprise D are on board an 18th century naval vessel, celebrating the promotion of Worf to the rank of Lieutenant Commander, culminating in him getting a dunking, which is funny, but less funny is Data trying to fit in by pushing Dr. Crusher into the water, almost literally the only thing she has to do in the entire film. In fact, Data being less funny than the writers expect is a running theme throughout this film. I'd call it a running gag, but this film isn't very funny. Just like the story our engineer Frank keeps telling us about the time he locked his keys in the car. Yes, Frank, very droll.
What was that?
Nothing. In the final years of Star Trek The Next Generation, Data had come into possession of an emotion chip, created for him by his creator Dr. Sung. But Data had elected to keep it in a cupboard ever since, along with his snap-on penis. For whatever reasons, Data decides he wants to experience emotions. Now, just like when Frank washes his car and a hailstorm hits...
What was that?
Nothing. Data activates his emotion chip and voila, shit starts to go down. The Nexus, so named because the writer was once parked in between a Nissan and a Lexus, makes another appearance, and in investigating, the Enterprise crew notice its trajectory will come into contact with several inhabited worlds. What they find is a man called Soran, one of Guinan's own race. He's determined to get back to the Nexus and is willing to destroy millions of lives in order to do so. Soran is in league with two Klingon sisters, Lursa and Bator, and decides to torture Geordi for some reason. Meanwhile, Data, experiencing emotions such as fear for the first time, is about as useful as a paper umbrella and spends most of the time amusing the audience with some hilarious comic relief. Meanwhile, Captain Picard is mulling over a family tragedy. Do some of these events seem somewhat random? Well, every character, except Dr. Crusher, remember, needed to be serviced in order to get the cast on board, so this is something you will notice a lot with the Next Generation films, particularly in relation to the characters of Data and Picard. There are weird plot tangents so the actors can indulge in actory things. Of course, this doesn't extend so much to the female cast members, so there are barely any impactful scenes with either Troy or Crusher. In fact, Dr. Crusher has about 6 lines of dialogue in the entire film. Data and Picard, using Cerebro, determine that Soran is trying to alter the course of the Nexus by blowing up stars. Soran plans to fire a missile that will cause, quote, shit to get real, end quote, and Picard fails to stop the final countdown, which results in the destruction of the Enterprise and her captain getting swept up into the Nexus. At this point, we learn what the Nexus actually is. It's a place where you can live forever in your wishes, which explains why Soran is so desperate to get back there, since he was in the middle of a game of Fortnite. We also learn that the inside of Captain Picard's mind is a dark and scary place. His idea of the ideal family is a bunch of children and a wife out of a Charles Dickens novel. The world of workhouse slums and horrific child mortality are Picard's idea of heaven. Also, Picard is meant to be French, not English, so the kids should more accurately look like they come from Parisian slums, not London slums. Picard comes across the long-dead James T. Kirk, and together the two take on Soran just before he fires off his missile. They prevail, but Kirk is killed. So sad. So very, very sad. For a very long time, there was a running joke about Star Trek's odd-numbered films being terrible compared to the even-numbered films. While this curse was eventually broken, Generations was not the film to do it. It's not deathly serious or grim, but it's not particularly fun. The cast seem more interested in their individual big-screen moments than appearing in one story, and very little of anything in this film lands. The long-awaited team-up between Kirk and Picard is okay at best, the same way a slice of cheese on bread is technically breakfast, but nowhere near as satisfying as pancakes and maple syrup. The film writes out James T. Kirk from Trek legend and also disposes of the beloved TV Enterprise D to make way for a new ship in a future film.
I don't need to be lectured by you. I was out saving the galaxy when your grandfather was in diapers.
This Stam Fine review of Star Trek Generations is fake, brought to you by Stam Fine bottled salt water for those times when the best way to quench a thirst is with more thirst. This is really a Picard film with Kirk as his sidekick, with Data given a dreadful B story.
I hate this!
And the rest of the Enterprise D crew relegated to Dr. Crusher status and just given busy work. It never quite feels right, like using a fork to retrieve a slice of bread stuck inside a toaster. But hey, new uniforms. Here we see a gradual changeover for the Enterprise crew, transitioning to the Deep Space Nine style uniforms. It seems weird to have people wearing the old uniform in one scene and then switching to a new uniform in the next, in the middle of an emergency. Since this is a PG-rated movie and not television, they're able to use gentle swear words.
Oh shit!
Can I say nice things about Generations? It's not amateurish fan fiction like Star Trek V, and it's certainly not the worst movie that this crew will appear in. Malcolm McDowell is always watchable despite being given a number of cheesy one-liners that movie writers of the 90s thought every character had to drop in just in case they could pop it into the trailer.
I have an appointment with eternity, and I don't want to be late.
But the overall staging is meant to feel epic. It really doesn't feel that way. It doesn't feel that much more cinematic than any of the 2-part episodes. It just feels like a wasted opportunity with a foot on each bridge. Even the meeting of the captains is a damp squib. Generations was a reasonable financial success despite its reviews, leading to more films starring the Next Generation crew. Films of vastly variable quality and success, but more on that later. So if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, leave a comment below, and be sure to check out some of our other videos.